Value Over Vanity, The Hidden Rule Millionaires Follow. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. The loudest person in the room is rarely the wealthiest. And often, the flashiest life is the most fragile. We live in a world that sells illusion as achievement. Status symbols parade through our screens like trophies, designer bags, high-end cars, and luxury vacations. They whisper a seductive lie. This is success. But dig a little deeper, and many of those lives are financed on fumes. Appearances are rented. Confidence is borrowed. Peace is postponed. This book is not about deprivation. It's about liberation. About stepping off the stage of performance and into a life of true prosperity, quiet, grounded, unshakable. Real millionaires understand something most miss. Wealth doesn't shout. It doesn't parade itself or demand validation. It's the oak tree in the forest, unseen in its early years, but impossible to ignore once it's rooted. Value is built in private. It's made in decisions the world doesn't applaud: buying a used car, saying no to fleeting trends, investing when no one's watching. As poet and speaker Lisa Nichols once said, "Your conviction and your convenience don't live on the same block." This book is a call to move. To trade convenience, the need to be seen, envied, praised for conviction. For quiet, disciplined choices that build wealth beneath the surface. You won't find hype here. No overnight success stories, no magic systems. Just timeless truths and powerful mindset shifts. This isn't a roadmap for pretending. It's a blueprint for building. And it's not about making millions to impress others. It's about having enough to live unburdened, focused, and free. You'll meet stories of the unnoticed wealthy, those who wear value like a second skin. Not because they can't afford luxury, but because they've learned they don't need it. You'll explore how every decision is a seed, how restraint can be richer than indulgence, and how the most powerful wealth is often invisible. This isn't about being less. It's about living more deliberately. So if you're ready to let go of the need to prove and start building something no one can take from you, read on. Quiet wealth is waiting. And it's louder than you think. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Wealth. A Lamborghini purrs down the boulevard, its mirror-like body reflecting the envy of every passerby. The driver, sporting sunglasses that cost more than some people's rent, seems to have everything. But what the crowd doesn't see is the lease agreement tucked in the glove box, the maxed-out credit cards, and the gnawing anxiety of someone living on a borrowed image. In a world where likes are currency and impressions define status, wealth has become theater. Appearances sell success. Even if the backstage is bare, the illusion is seductive and expensive. We've been conditioned to associate riches with flash, custom suits, first-class flights, penthouse views. But for many, these are props in a performance. The real millionaires, the ones who quietly move through the world unnoticed, know a different truth. Wealth whispers. It doesn't need validation. It needs vision. Research by wealth expert Thomas Stanley revealed that most millionaires don't drive luxury cars. In fact, the most commonly owned vehicle among them is a reliable, mid-priced sedan. Why? Because they prioritize substance over show. They don't buy to be seen, they buy to serve a purpose. For them, money isn't about signaling worth, it's about securing freedom. There's a cost to vanity that goes beyond the price tag. It fosters anxiety. It demands maintenance. It keeps the spotlight on, even when the performance is exhausting. Vanity is a sugar high. It hits fast, feels good, and crashes hard. Value is a garden. It requires patience, nurturing, and time, but its harvest is sustaining and real. Look closely at those who've built lasting wealth, and a pattern emerges. They make decisions others overlook. They live in homes they can easily afford, invest consistently, and delay gratification. They're not interested in looking rich, they're interested in being free. And freedom, not Ferraris, is the real currency of the wealthy. Every time a dollar leaves your hand, it tells a story. Is it a story of performance, or a story of purpose, or of ego, or of equity? The illusion of wealth demands applause. But applause doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't grow. It fades the moment the spotlight dims. It's not that luxury is evil or desire is wrong. It's that when vanity leads, vision gets blurred. The pursuit of image often distracts from the pursuit of impact. And impact, creating, contributing, compounding, is where real wealth begins. The quiet millionaires understand this. They've learned to delay the dopamine of vanity for the deep satisfaction of value. They've chosen to impress themselves with their progress, rather than impress strangers with their possessions. They walk through life lighter, not because they lack, but because they've let go of the burden of being seen. If wealth were a language, vanity would be loud punctuation, exclamation marks, and bold claims. Value, on the other hand, is quiet grammar. It holds everything together, makes sense of it all, but rarely draws attention to itself. It just works. So the next time you're tempted to buy for the eyes of others, pause. Ask the question that millionaires ask every day: is this a purchase or a performance? That single shift in thinking may be the most profitable one of your life. Real wealth is often invisible. Vanity is costly, value compounds. Millionaires choose purpose over performance. Where in your life are you spending for image rather than impact? Review your last 3 non-essential purchases. Label each as value or vanity. What do you notice? Chapter 2: Why Value is Invisible at First. In a quiet corner of a Japanese forest, bamboo lies dormant for 5 years. Beneath the soil, its roots stretch wide, forming a hidden network of strength. Then, seemingly overnight, it shoots up, sometimes 3 feet in a single day. To the untrained eye, it looks like sudden success. But those who know understand, the growth was happening all along, unseen. The pursuit of value works the same way. Society rewards immediacy. Quick wins, flashy starts, instant results, but real wealth rarely plays by those rules. It grows slowly, quietly, often imperceptibly, until one day it stands tall, undeniable, and deeply rooted. The quiet millionaires have mastered this delayed bloom. They invest in skills, businesses, relationships, and habits that don't pay off right away. They water seeds that others forget. While vanity demands visibility now, value accepts invisibility for a season. That patience, though rare, is powerful. Consider Ronald Reed, a janitor from Vermont. He drove a used car, lived in a modest home, and clipped coupons. When he died, he left behind an estate worth over $8 million. No lottery, no windfall, just decades of living below his means and investing consistently. He didn't need recognition, he needed results. What makes value so easy to overlook is that it rarely announces itself. There's no applause when you skip the latest iPhone release or choose to read a financial book instead of binge-watching a show. But each small decision adds up. Like compounding interest, value's magic is in its consistency, not its visibility. Vanity, in contrast, is all surface. It's a firework, brief, bright, and gone. It may impress others for a moment, but it doesn't leave anything behind. Value is a bonfire. It takes longer to build, but it provides warmth for years. The hardest part of choosing value is resisting the itch for recognition. Humans crave affirmation. We want to be seen, admired, acknowledged. But the path of substance often requires seasons of obscurity. True wealth builders embrace that. They measure success not by what others notice but by what they're building in the dark. This mindset shift, from seeking to be seen to seeking to build, transforms more than finances. It rewires your relationship with time, self-worth, and legacy. You stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "What am I growing?" To live this way requires intentionality. You must learn to celebrate the invisible wins, the debt you didn't take on, the savings goal you quietly met, the skill you practiced when no one was watching. These are the roots of wealth, and while they may not draw likes or comments, they will draw compound interest, and eventually, freedom. Imagine a life where you don't need to prove anything, where your confidence comes not from what you wear, but from what you're worth, and not just in dollars but in direction. That life begins when you choose to invest in what endures, even if no one applauds. So the next time you feel invisible in your discipline, remember the bamboo. It wasn't failing. It was preparing. You are too. Real value often grows in silence. Instant gratification fades, invisible investments compound. Success that lasts usually starts unseen. What areas of your life feel fruitless now, but may be silently growing? Start a quiet wins journal. Each day, list one small, value-based choice you made. Watch how they compound. Chapter 3: Millionaires Make Boring Choices. At a high-end conference in Los Angeles, attendees buzzed about crypto spikes and startup exits. In the corner sat a man in a plain polo shirt, eating fruit from a paper plate. No Rolex, no bravado, no entourage. He didn't speak much, but when he did, everyone leaned in. Later it was revealed, he had a net worth north of $50 million. Nobody guessed it, and he preferred it that way. The truth is unsettling for those addicted to drama. Wealth is often boring. It's not a thrilling narrative of all or nothing bets or wild success stories. It's a story of repetition, restraint, and reliability. Millionaires, more often than not, are creatures of habit. The cars they drive aren't exotic, they're efficient. The meals they eat aren't curated, they're consistent. Their portfolios don't chase trends, they follow systems. It's not because they lack imagination. It's because they understand the quiet compounding of boring choices. Excitement, for many, is expensive. The adrenaline of a new gadget, the thrill of an impulse buy, the dopamine hit of luxury, all of it drains more than bank accounts. It siphons focus. It mortgages future peace for present noise. Millionaires resist this siren song. They build automated savings plans, review budgets monthly, and invest in the same diversified index funds year after year. These aren't flashy moves, they're foundational ones. Like bricks in a fortress, each one is unremarkable alone, but together, they create something unshakable. Boredom isn't failure, it's freedom disguised. The predictability of good financial decisions is what allows wealth to accumulate without anxiety. Imagine living in a house where every beam was randomly chosen. It might look quirky, but it won't stand in a storm. Stability comes from uniformity, so does wealth. The media loves to showcase outliers, overnight millionaires, viral influencers, sudden IPO kings. But these are exceptions, not templates. The rule, the quiet, boring, effective rule, is deliberate simplicity. Millionaires don't try to outsmart the market or outshine their neighbors. They aim for sustainability, not spectacle. Consider a man who brews his own coffee every morning instead of buying $6 lattes. Over 30 years, if that money is invested, it could grow into six figures. Not because he's cheap, but because he's consistent. Boring choices, repeated over time, become extraordinary results. Vanity craves excitement. It demands attention. But the pursuit of spectacle often leaves people chasing the next thrill without ever building a foundation. Wealth, true wealth, grows best when no one's watching, and often, when you're doing the same thing today that you did yesterday. So here's a secret. If your financial life feels routine, even dull, that might be the best sign you're on track. Boredom in personal finance is not a bug. It's a feature. It means you've created systems that work without emotional turbulence. When you embrace simplicity, you reclaim energy. You stop asking, "What's the next big thing?" and start focusing on what's still working. That shift rewires your relationship with money, from chasing excitement to cultivating endurance. Because in the end, slow and steady doesn't just win the race, it owns the track. Boring financial choices build lasting wealth. Simplicity and consistency outperform flash and flare. Millionaires value repeatable systems over risky excitement. What boring habits could you double down on to build long-term security? Create a simple wealth routine, a weekly or monthly checklist of consistent actions like saving, budgeting, or investing. Chapter 4: Assets over Applause. The crowd roared as the rapper stepped off stage, drenched in sweat and adrenaline. Cameras flashed. Social media lit up. Headlines screamed success. But behind the scenes, he made a different kind of move, one no fan would ever notice. That night, he bought another apartment building. No announcement, no post. Just another brick in a financial fortress rising quietly behind the curtain. This is the paradox of real wealth. It's built on assets, not applause. The applause is addictive. It's loud, immediate, and public. But applause doesn't accrue interest, back as assets do. An asset is anything that grows in value or puts money in your pocket. Real estate, stocks, intellectual property, businesses. Each one is a worker in your army, earning while you sleep, appreciating while you focus elsewhere. Applause, by contrast, is noise. It's fleeting. It relies on external approval and fades the moment attention shifts. Too many people confuse fame with fortune. They chase followers, likes, and brand deals, mistaking visibility for value. But visibility doesn't pay dividends. It pays today, maybe. Assets pay for life. Real millionaires know this. They quietly acquire. They don't ask, will this impress, but will this compound? They buy stock in companies while others buy sneakers. They purchase rental properties while others post about luxury vacations. They build intellectual capital, books, courses, patents, while others build personal brands with no backend. It's not that applause is bad, it's just insufficient. You can be celebrated and still broke, or you can be anonymous and financially free. Applause is a one-time check. Assets are recurring deposits. The average millionaire has multiple income streams, at least 7, according to research. That's not a coincidence. It's a strategy. Each stream is a safety net, a lever of leverage, a step toward independence, and most of them are invisible to the casual observer. Think of applause as a spotlight. It feels good. It warms the skin. But it moves quickly and leaves you in the dark the moment it shifts. Assets are a solar panel. They absorb energy long after the spotlight's gone, powering your life quietly, continuously. Building assets requires a different mindset. It asks long-term questions. What will this be worth in 5 years? Will this work for me while I rest? Will it free up my time, not consume it? These aren't glamorous questions. But they're the ones who build legacies. Vanity spends on what shines. Value invests in what sustains. If your wallet could talk, would it tell stories of shows or structures? And of purchases meant to impress? Or decisions meant to endure? Every dollar is a brick. You can build a facade or a foundation. The good news is, it's never too late to pivot. You don't need millions to start acquiring assets. You need clarity. A budget. A beginner's book on investing. A habit of redirecting money from impressing strangers to empowering your future self. The applause will fade. The asset will stay. One is noise. The other is a nest egg. Choose wisely. Applause is temporary. Assets are transformational. And millionaires build income streams that work even when they don't. Every dollar can either entertain or empower. Your call. Where are you trading legacy for likes? What applause are you chasing at the cost of an asset? List your current assets: financial, intellectual, and relational. Identify one you can start growing this month. Chapter 5. Status is expensive, freedom is priceless. The headlines told one story: a first-round draft pick, millions guaranteed, luxury vehicles, designer everything. But 5 years later, that story unraveled. The athlete was broke. No team, no assets, no peace. The fame had burned bright and fast. What he had chased was status. What he lost was freedom. Status is seductive. It looks like success, but underneath, it's often a leash, shiny but tight. It tells you how to dress, where to vacation, what to drive, and who to impress. It's not just expensive in dollars. It costs energy, autonomy, and identity. Freedom, by contrast, is subtle. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg for validation. It moves quietly, choosing paths based on purpose, not performance. True wealth builders aren't drawn to status. They're driven by sovereignty, the ability to decide how they spend their time, who they answer to, and what they pursue. There's a reason so many lottery winners go bankrupt. They gain money but not mastery. They acquire visibility but not vision. Without a framework, sudden wealth amplifies insecurity. Status becomes the default goal. And freedom slips away under the weight of trying to maintain an image. Millionaires who keep their wealth understand the difference. They trade appearances for options. They skip the latest luxury trend, not because they can't afford it, but because they don't need it. Their fulfillment doesn't hinge on being admired. It hinges on being unbothered. Freedom is not just financial, it's psychological. It's the ability to walk into a room and not care who's judging, to choose a Toyota over a Tesla without explaining why. It's to prioritize time with family over being seen at the right events. Status forces comparison. Freedom fosters contentment. One keeps score by who notices. The other keeps score by what you notice: peace, control, joy. The cost of status is perpetual upkeep. You're only as admired as your last purchase, your last post, your last proof of success. It's a treadmill, and the incline always increases. Freedom, on the other hand, is compounding calm. Each wise choice, each deferred flex, adds a layer of autonomy. Over time, those layers become armor. The irony is that the people who truly have made it don't feel compelled to show it. They've outgrown the game. Their wealth doesn't need validation because it's validated by results, not recognition. So how do you choose freedom in a world obsessed with status? Start by getting clear on what you value. Define wealth in your own terms, not society's. Ask what you want your money to do, not what you want it to show. Then align your spending, saving, and investing to that mission. It's not about deprivation. It's about direction. You can still enjoy nice things. The difference is, are you owning them, or are they owning you? The world will always reward the illusion. But freedom, real, deep, liberating freedom, is the better prize, and it's earned quietly, one unglamorous decision at a time. Let others chase applause. You chase alignment. Status seeks approval. Freedom seeks autonomy. Millionaires prioritize direction over display. Wealth is not about what you own, it's about what doesn't own you. Where are you spending to be seen rather than to be free? Define what freedom looks like for you in one sentence. Write it down and place it where you'll see it daily. Chapter 6. The Millionaire Next Door Effect. He wore a faded flannel shirt and drove a 10-year-old pickup. His lawn was trimmed, his home modest. Neighbors assumed he was a retired handyman or maybe a schoolteacher. In truth, he was a multimillionaire. No lottery win, no inheritance, just decades of quiet discipline and deliberate decisions. He was the embodiment of what researchers now call the millionaire next door. Appearances deceive. And in the world of wealth, they often mislead the most. The media parades yachts and penthouses, but the average millionaire doesn't live in luxury zip codes or own exotic cars. They live next door, shop sales, and quietly accumulate assets while others accumulate stuff. Thomas J. Stanley's groundbreaking research found that most millionaires don't fit the stereotype. They're not flashy. They're not celebrities. They're often business owners, engineers, or teachers. What they share isn't occupation, it's orientation. They think long-term. They budget. They avoid debt. They invest consistently. And they live well below their means. This isn't about scarcity. It's about sovereignty. They choose control over chaos. They don't need to showcase success because they experience it daily, through peace, through options, through independence. They've learned that financial freedom is the quietest kind. One of the most revealing findings from Stanley's research was that many high-income earners, especially those in prestigious professions, aren't wealthy. They earn a lot but spend just as much, often more. They chase symbols of success rather than substance. Meanwhile, their less conspicuous counterparts quietly build net worth without the burden of pretending. Millionaires next door don't deny themselves joy. They just define joy differently. It's not in brand names or champagne brunches. It's in a fully funded emergency fund, a paid-off mortgage, and the ability to say no without fear. They understand that wealth isn't what you buy, it's what you keep, and what you keep is determined not by income, but by behavior. That's why two people can earn the same salary and end up in vastly different places financially. One follows vanity. The other follows value. The danger of ignoring this truth is subtle but serious. When we judge wealth by display, we miss the discipline behind true financial security. We assume that what glitters must be gold, and we overlook the quiet brilliance of those who've mastered restraint. The millionaire next door effect invites a new perspective. One that prizes financial health over financial theater. One that recognizes true wealth as invisible, intentional, and often underestimated. Imagine if success wasn't something to be seen, but something to be felt, deeply, quietly, without needing confirmation. That's what these millionaires live every day. They don't posture. They don't compete. They simply build. While others chase applause, they chase abundance. If you want to follow their path, the shift is simple. Stop asking how you appear, and start asking what you're accumulating. Choose function over flair. Choose margin over maintenance. Choose quiet wealth over noisy spending. Because while the world claps for the performer, the neighbor next door is clapping for compound interest. True millionaires often live modest, unassuming lives. Wealth is measured by net worth, not visible status. Behavior, not income, determines financial outcome. In what ways are you equating wealth with image rather than with intentional action? Find one area of your life where you can live more simply without sacrificing value. Redirect that savings toward an investment or debt payoff. Chapter 7. Every dollar is a decision. He stood at the register, holding two identical shirts. One had a logo, the other didn't. One was triple the price. The difference wasn't fabric, it was vanity. He chose the plain one and invested the savings. That single decision, made quietly and without applause, echoed for decades. Because every dollar is a decision, and those decisions stack. Money is more than a medium of exchange. It's a reflection of priorities, a roadmap of beliefs. Where it flows reveals what matters. And millionaires, the quiet kind, make their money move with intention, not because they're frugal. Because they're focused. Each dollar has two destinations, value or vanity. It can build or broadcast, compound or complement, secure your future or signal your status. One is silent and strategic. The other is loud and fleeting. One builds equity. The other buys impressions. This is why wealthy people treat everyday spending with quiet reverence. They pause. They consider. They weigh the cost not just in currency, but in opportunity. Because they know a latte isn't just $5, it's $5 that won't earn interest, pay down debt, or grow an asset. It's not about deprivation. It's about direction. Small decisions make big differences over time. A daily $10 indulgence doesn't seem harmful, but over 30 years, invested with moderate returns, that's 6 figures. That's a down payment. A business seed. A financial cushion. Millionaires see this math and act accordingly. They view each purchase through a lens of long-term consequence, not to restrict joy, but to amplify freedom. They don't ask, "Can I afford this now?" They ask, "Will this help me afford more later?" It's a subtle shift, but it rewires the entire money mindset. There's power in mindfulness. When you treat spending as a series of intentional acts rather than mindless habits, you regain control. You become the author of your financial story, not a passive reader of someone else's script. Vanity urges impulsivity. You deserve it, it whispers. You'll look successful. But what's often disguised as self-care is self-sabotage. Real self-care is preparing your future self to be unburdened, not adding to the weight for a momentary lift. The wealthy don't have superhuman discipline, they simply automate their values. They use budgets, systems, and rules to reduce decision fatigue. Some set default percentages for saving, giving, and spending. Others use tools like the 24-hour rule before making non-essential purchases. These aren't constraints, they're compasses. Imagine every dollar you spend being broadcast on a screen for your future self to see. Would they be proud, relieved, or burdened? Millionaires live with that awareness. They spend in a way their future self will thank them for. It's not that you can never indulge, it's that you indulge with intention. You decide where joy is worth the cost, and where discipline is worth more. So the next time your card hovers over a payment terminal, pause. Ask, what story is this dollar telling? Is it planting roots or chasing wind? Is it feeding ego or building equity? Because while the dollar may be small, the direction it points can be massive. Every financial choice compounds over time. Wealthy people spend intentionally, not impulsively. Discipline isn't deprivation, it's direction. What recent spending decision would your future self question or applaud? Track every dollar you spend this week. Label each one, value or vanity. Reflect on the patterns you see. Chapter 8. What vanity costs you. She always looked impeccable. Her nails were flawless, her wardrobe rotated with each season's trends, and her Instagram sparkled with curated perfection. But behind the filters was a quiet desperation. Credit card balances rising. Savings account is empty, dreams postponed indefinitely. The cost of vanity wasn't just financial, it was emotional, spiritual, and directional. Vanity is a master of disguise. It promises confidence but delivers comparison. It offers identity but demands approval. It's not just about spending, it's about surrendering control. When appearance becomes the goal, decisions bend to performance rather than purpose. Millionaires don't just avoid vanity for their wallet's sake. They avoid it because it steals bandwidth. Every moment spent curating an image is a moment not spent building a future. Every dollar poured into being seen is a dollar withheld from creating stability. The price of vanity is subtle. It's a missed opportunity to invest. The debt that snowballs quietly. The anxiety that creeps in every time a bill arrives. It's the nagging voice asking, what happens if the income stops? And it's the pressure to keep up, even when you're falling behind. Vanity costs clarity. It clouds your judgment with noise, what others are wearing, driving, flaunting. You begin measuring success by the standards of strangers, chasing benchmarks that don't belong to you. This borrowed ambition becomes a burden. You forget what you truly value because you're too busy trying to match what looks valuable. Worse still, vanity costs momentum. It delays action. You can't start that business, take that course, or save for that goal because the money is spoken for, by brands, by trends, by the need to prove something. Your progress is held hostage by the illusion of arrival. Millionaires don't chase illusion, they chase impact. They understand that every resource, time, energy, money, must be aimed at their goals, not scattered in pursuit of praise. They know that real power lies in focus, not flair. Vanity can also cost connection. Relationships built on status are fragile. The moment the image slips, the admiration fades. But relationships built on substance, shared values, mutual growth, real honesty, those endure. The wealthy invest in the latter. They don't need to impress, they need to align. Think of your energy as a currency. Vanity drains it. It demands upkeep, performance, and pretense. Value replenishes it. It's rooted, honest, and resilient. One leads to burnout. The other leads to peace. Escaping the trap of vanity doesn't require renouncing beauty or pleasure, it requires redefining them. Pleasure becomes finishing a month under budget. Beauty becomes the calm that follows a debt-free life. Prestige becomes creating something lasting, something that won't go out of style next season. So ask yourself, what are you trading for that fleeting validation? What vision is being delayed so you can keep up an image? Because behind every dollar spent on vanity, there's a cost not seen on the receipt, potential deferred, peace disrupted, purpose diluted. It's time to buy back your freedom. Vanity costs more than money, it costs clarity, momentum, and peace. Millionaires avoid the emotional debt of performance-driven living. Real wealth builders focus on impact, not image. Where in your life are you performing for approval, rather than progressing toward purpose? Identify one recurring expense tied to image, pause it for 30 days. Redirect that money toward a goal that builds value. Chapter 9. How Quiet Confidence Compounds. He walked into the room without fanfare. No logoed suit, no designer shoes, no theatrical handshake. But when he spoke, people listened, not because he was loud, but because he was grounded. His confidence wasn't performance, it was principle. Quiet, sure, steady. The kind of confidence that doesn't need a stage because it's built on substance. Confidence, the kind that lasts, doesn't come from being seen. It comes from knowing. Knowing you've done the work. Knowing you've made wise choices. Knowing you're free from the applause. Millionaires understand this. They don't peacock, they plan. They don't project, they prepare. The world is noisy. It rewards the showy, the brash, the exaggerated. But over time, that kind of confidence withers, because it's external. It depends on being noticed, validated, and celebrated. The moment the spotlight shifts, it fades. Quiet confidence, however, grows in the shadows. It doesn't demand attention. It earns it through consistency. Like compound interest, it builds slowly, silently, and exponentially. You may not feel it day to day, but over years, it becomes unshakable. This is the wealth that doesn't show up on bank statements. It's the calm in a market dip. The unbothered shrug when trends pass. The peace of knowing your identity isn't tethered to your income, your image, or your social following. Quiet confidence is born from alignment. When your actions match your values, when your spending mirrors your priorities, when your life reflects your convictions, you stop needing validation. You begin living from the inside out, not the outside in. Vanity thrives on insecurity. It needs mirrors, likes, approval. But value, true value, creates assurance. The assurance that your life isn't fragile, that your choices are sound, that your future isn't built on sand but on stone. Confidence, then, is a feedback loop. When you choose delayed gratification, when you invest instead of impulse buy, when you walk away from status games, your mind begins to trust you. And trust is the soil where confidence grows. Many mistake loudness for strength. But loudness is often a cover. Strength whispers. It shows up in the way you hold eye contact, in the ease with which you say no, in the patience to let others rush while you remain still. Millionaires don't need to flex. They've graduated from the need to prove. Their confidence is earned, not performed, and because it's quiet, it can't be shaken by noise. This kind of composure compounds. Like wealth, it's not linear. Every time you honor a budget, show up for a goal, and skip the urge to show off, you're adding to it, bit by bit, brick by brick. Until one day you realize you no longer care who's watching, you care who you're becoming. Confidence rooted in results outlasts confidence rooted in reactions. And the richest people, emotionally, financially, spiritually, are often the ones who learn to move without needing a soundtrack. Let the world be loud, you be solid. Quiet confidence grows from alignment and repetition. Millionaires build internal assurance, not external approval. True confidence doesn't need attention, it creates traction. In what areas of life do you feel the need to be seen, and how might quiet consistency serve you more? Identify one area where you typically seek validation. This week, act with intention but in silence. Let the result, not the recognition, affirm your worth. Chapter 10. Building Identity Around Value. He didn't introduce himself by what he owned or where he vacationed. He introduced himself by what he built, his ideas, his team, his discipline. His identity wasn't draped in brands or destinations, it was stitched together with value. And that made him unshakable. Identity drives behavior. What we believe about who we are shapes what we do. If you believe you're someone who impresses, you'll spend to be seen. If you believe you're someone who builds, you'll invest in things that last. Millionaires don't just have assets, they have aligned identities. Vanity says, show who you are. Value says, know who you are. The difference is seismic. When your identity is external, you're at the mercy of the crowd. When it's internal, you're guided by conviction. Most people drift into identities without realizing it. Influenced by ads, peer pressure, and social media, they absorb beliefs about success, what it looks like, what it should feel like, how it should be displayed. But few stop to ask, does this reflect who I want to become? Millionaires ask that question often. They're not reactive, they're intentional. They shape their identity around principles, discipline, stewardship, generosity, vision, and that identity becomes a compass. It informs every spending choice, every investment, every goal. Behavior follows belief. Tell someone they're bad with money, and they'll act accordingly. Tell yourself you're a builder of value, and you'll start behaving like one, tracking expenses, creating systems, declining distractions. The label leads the lifestyle. But this isn't about affirmations in the mirror. It's about evidence. Identity is best shaped by small wins. Each time you make a wise financial decision, you reinforce a story. This is who I am. Over time, those decisions become character. Character becomes culture. And culture becomes destiny. Vanity-based identities are fragile. They require upkeep. Every outfit, every post, every purchase is a performance to maintain the brand. It's exhausting. Value-based identities, in contrast, are freeing. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to live in alignment. This is why some of the most secure people look average on the outside. Their self-worth isn't tied to their net worth, or their image of it. Their confidence flows from integrity, not image. You can reshape your identity starting now. Begin by rewriting your financial story. Instead of I've always been bad with money, try, I'm learning to master money decisions. Instead of I need to look successful, try, I'm building something successful. The words you choose create the world you live in. Then, reinforce that new identity with action. Set up an automatic transfer to savings. Create a budget and follow it. Read a book on investing. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Stack enough votes, and the identity sticks. What you repeat becomes what you believe. What you believe becomes who you are. Millionaires don't wait to feel like wealth builders. They act like wealth builders, and the identity follows. And that identity, quiet, rooted, resilient, is the true foundation of financial freedom. Build it intentionally. Protect it fiercely. Identity shapes financial behavior more than knowledge. Millionaires align their self-concept with value, not vanity. Small, consistent actions reinforce powerful self-beliefs. What financial identity have you unconsciously adopted, and how is it shaping your choices? Write your new money identity in one sentence, post it where you'll see it daily. Let it guide your next financial decision. Chapter 11: Teaching Value to the Next Generation. At a kitchen table cluttered with notebooks and toast crumbs, a father showed his daughter a paycheck stub, not to impress her, but to teach her. He explained taxes, saving, giving, and spending. No lectures. Just life. That daughter grew up without fear of money, not because she had plenty, but because she understood it. The legacy wasn't cash, it was clarity. Wealth passed down without wisdom rarely lasts. History proves it. Studies show that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation, and 90% by the third. It's not a lack of money, it's a lack of mindset. Teaching value isn't just about numbers, it's about nurturing a lens, a way of seeing the world that prioritizes substance over style, stewardship over status. And the earlier that lens is installed, the longer it shapes behavior. Children don't absorb what we say as much as what we model. If they see us chasing trends, equating worth with appearance, or hiding financial stress behind purchases, they learn those scripts. But if they see restraint, generosity, and long-term thinking, they begin to write differently. Millionaires know this. That's why they bring their kids into conversations about budgeting, investing, and goals. Not with pressure, but with purpose. They don't pretend money is taboo. They treat it as a tool, and teach how to wield it with wisdom. Value, when taught early, becomes second nature. A child who understands delayed gratification is a future adult who doesn't crumble under consumer pressure. A teen who learns to differentiate between assets and liabilities grows into someone who builds wealth instead of debt. Teaching value also means showing what matters more than money: time, integrity, generosity. When children see giving as a joy, not a burden, they begin to associate money with impact, not ego. That single shift can shape a lifetime of financial behavior. It doesn't take complex lessons to pass this on. It takes consistency. Use everyday life as a classroom. At the grocery store, explain the budget. At dinner, discuss a financial goal. During chores, tie effort to earnings. These small seeds take root. Make room for mistakes too. Let kids fail small, early, and often. A $10 mistake at 12 is a $10,000 lesson at 40. Safe failure builds resilience and humility. It also opens the door for conversations that are honest, not theoretical. One powerful practice is the money meeting. Once a month, sit as a family and talk openly. What was earned? What was saved? What went wrong? What's next? No shame. Just awareness. The goal is not perfection, it's participation. And perhaps most importantly, teach that their worth isn't tied to what they have, but how they think. That a modest life full of meaning outweighs a flashy one full of emptiness. That their legacy starts not with inheritance, but with intention. Because the true mark of wealth isn't what you leave behind. It's what you pass on while you're still here. Habits, mindsets, beliefs. Those ripple long after the money is spent. Start now. One conversation at a time. One example at a time. One choice at a time. Wealth, without wisdom, often disappears by the next generation. Modeling value is more powerful than teaching it verbally. Financial literacy starts with everyday moments, not big lessons. What money habits or beliefs are you unconsciously passing on to those watching you? Choose one financial principle to teach or model this week to a child, sibling, or mentee. Keep it simple. Make it stick. Chapter 12. The Quiet Millionaire's Manifesto. The oak tree doesn't boast its age. It doesn't wear a plaque or demand applause, but its roots run deep, its trunk stands firm, and its presence alters the landscape. That's what quiet wealth does. It doesn't seek attention, it creates shelter. By now, the illusion has cracked. The chase for status, the pull of performance, the glittering lie that vanity is value, it's all been exposed. What remains is the deeper truth: wealth is built not in bursts, but in rhythms, not with noise, but with nuance. Millionaires, the real kind, don't just accumulate, they align. Their lives are ordered by purpose, not pressure. They spend with thought. They invest with vision. They live not to be seen, but to be free. They don't measure success in square footage or in threads per inch. They measure it in time reclaimed, stress reduced, legacy prepared. They don't need to shout their worth. They live it, silently, steadily, strongly. This is the new script. One that rejects the outdated belief that riches must be worn. One that understands that substance outlasts style. One that believes that every financial choice, no matter how small, is a vote for the future you desire. It's a quiet revolution. You won't see it trending, but you'll feel it in the calm of a debt-free night, in the pride of an investment growing, in the peace of knowing you're no longer performing. You've begun to speak the language of value. You've planted seeds. Instead of buying bouquet, you've moved from pressure to presence, from looking rich to becoming stable, from chasing comparison to embracing contentment. Let the others compete for attention, you compete for alignment. Let them spend for display, you spend for direction. Let them exhaust themselves for image, you build endurance for impact. This isn't about frugality for its own sake. It's about freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you choose what matters, protect what you've earned, and contribute to what lasts. The quiet millionaire isn't an archetype, it's an invitation. To live with less noise and more knowing, to see money not as an identity, but as a tool, to walk through life with lightness, not from lack, but from letting go. You've learned that real wealth doesn't scream, it whispers. It accumulates in decisions made when no one is watching. It compounds in habits repeated long after motivation fades. It reveals itself not in possessions, but in peace. So here is your manifesto. Let it guide your choices, your character, your legacy. I choose value over vanity, substance over spectacle, stewardship over status, direction over distraction, freedom over fame. I don't spend to be seen. I build to be steady. I am not here to impress. I am here to invest. Let this be your compass. In a loud world, be the quiet force. In a fast world, be the slow route. In a shallow world, be the depth. You are not defined by what you flaunt, but by what you forge. Let others chase moments. You build momentum. Because in the end, when the applause fades and the lights dim, what remains isn't what you wore or where you traveled. It's what you built. It's who you became. Quiet wealth is the result of steady, value-driven living. Freedom, not flash, is the true reward of financial discipline. Your legacy begins with the decisions you make in silence. What part of the Quiet Millionaire's manifesto resonates most, and how will you live it this week? Write your own one-sentence manifesto, place it where you see it daily. Let it shape every financial decision moving forward.